Oh my God. Can you imagine? Because there's so many people in the United States that there's going to be like fetuses that's going to be existing, like 9 month, 8 month fetuses that's going to be existing during that period. Do you think conservatives would consider like 8 month immigrant fetuses to be alive? Oh my God. Or not. So then they can take away their citizenship? Oh my God, because during that period, like if it does go to a Supreme Court, there's gonna be a period of time in which like these fetuses are gonna be still in the womb. Oh my God. The citizenship ripped straight from the womb. Oh my God. Absolute cinema. Bro. Oh my, wait, oh my God. How would they define the life? How, which week would they draw? Oh my God. If life begins at conception for the Republicans, would they just like give any kind of egg and a sperm citizenship? Because they've technically still would, no, they would take away citizenship because they were alive. No, they would, no, they're shameless. They would take away citizenship even if they consider life at conception to be a thing. They're shameless enough to do that. Oh my God. Deport the fetus! Deport the fetus!
People that
Okay,
are
sorry.
right.
What do you want, Kafka?
Can we talk about some Supreme Court stuff?
What Supreme Court stuff?
There's the birthright citizenship, and then there's the slaughter case that happened recently.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the birthright
You don't want
citizenship
to,
thing?
we don't have to.
Well, no, I was just... There's no
It's
way
just
that
depressing to think about?
Yeah, it's not depressing, because there's no way that they're going to do that they're going to allow Trump to EO that away. So they're taking that case so they can make a strong statement on it to fight against the president, right?
Quick catch up, everybody. There was a case, Trump v. Costa, that happened earlier this year. That was about the nationwide injunctions where they talked about birthright citizenship, but they didn't actually make a decision about it.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, they were like, you can't do this. But the government and Republican justices said, oh, the right way to do it is with a class action. The day the opinion came out, people filed class actions and got an injunction for that class, the class being all born and unborn people in the U.S. that could be affected by the EO. So the EO has been enjoined so that it's not affecting people right now.
Mm-hmm.
Those cases with the class actions are now being appealed, and the Supreme Court is saying we're going to take those up. And so there's like the main argument, I think you've seen it, that's coming up, is the 14th Amendment was for the children of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
This goes back, so like this runs in the issue with the
I've seen this one before. Oh no.
Case from 1898. I know you've covered
Oh
that.
no,
But
dude.
there's also two, I don't know if you've seen this, there's two laws that were passed, one in 1940 and one in 1952 by Congress that codify.
I think so many DGers liked Pisco because he was a foil who got under Steven's skin more than him having base takes. I think that's true too.
The concept of birthright citizenship as we like currently use it. So it's not just that there's this like vague language in the text that then got affirmed by the Supreme Court and can be overturned by the Supreme Court. There's also two laws that somewhat codify this idea into law.
Sure.
And so I agree with you where it's like it's hard to believe that they could do it, though it is the what I'm seeing is like the edge case where they're like going to split the baby and be like, okay, we're not gonna get rid of it, but the argument seems to be that the justices might grant some form of only permanent residents and citizens. So any temporary visas, anybody here that's not under a permanent residence, things like that, will not enjoy birthright citizenship. So
Like, I think that I would be
Wait, can they retroactively take away citizenship?
100% supportive of that as a law or an amendment if it needs to be. But like for the legitimacy of the judiciary, you cannot be on a this is the most originalist, like, or not originalist. This is the most like, what was the opposite? They always use the slur like breathing document or whatever, or what do they call it?
Living document.
Yeah, living document.
Document.
This is the most progressive activist judge thing possible, where you can rewrite hundreds of years of history of legal judicial precedent with the stroke of a pen. Because like, even if it's bad, it has to stand after centuries. Like it must stand, or decades, I guess, if we're, or no, centuries. Yeah, well, it must stand. Like it's crazy to me that
especially from a judicial position, right? Like if Congress wants to come in and change something,
that's what I'm saying. If they want to make a new law or do a constitution, fine. But a judge, this is the most pointed criticism that people have always had about progressive activist judges. Even if it's bad law, even if every part of the decision was bad, at this point, you're undermining everything about your institution to be rewriting this with a stroke of a pen. It's crazy.
Right, and it's also like it's crazy because if you go back and read or listen to Costa oral arguments and some of the briefs there, they discuss how truly destructive doing this would be and how it would be impossible to truly like implement because some states would you have to have an immense amount of communication between states because let's say one state doesn't provide the citizenship but one does, like one recognizes it, one doesn't, right? And things like that. Let's say like the amount of people, the millions of people we'd have in the country that would no longer have citizenship status would be without a country. and we'd have no ability to really engage with those people or do things.
To be fair, the phrasing of the EO, I think, was only supposed to be forward-facing, right?
That is, yeah, man, that would be really cool if that was, I don't know about cool, that would be better if they enforced it that way. I think we both know that if the EO gets upheld, that the Trump administration will use it to the maximal extent and use it to attack anybody that they question whether or not they were here legitimately.
Sure.
Bro, can you imagine like a bunch of like fucking Russian bots pointing out some random brown people on Twitter saying that they are an illegal like fucking birthright citizen or whatever the fuck, and then using the EO, they're able to deny that person's citizenship or some shit? Bro, that would be so fucking insane. Considering how there's probably like at least one motherfucker out there who got deported, probably because there's a bunch of like fucking Russian bots like brigading like one fucking brown guy.
You also might run into issues where they might say it's only forward looking, but like anybody who's currently
Twitter of all places.
And so you've got like people who have been 10, 20, 30 years in, yeah.
Pretty blackmailing.
Exactly. And the thing is like when you look at the administrative cost, right? Think about the amount of like judicial hearings that need to happen, the amount of like enforcement that would happen. This is all a huge factor that is an actually legitimate argument to make, and is an argument that the Trump administration made about the tariffs, saying, "Oh, we can't get rid of these illegal tariffs because it'd be too expensive to do it."
Sure.
Meanwhile, this is like in the other direction of like we don't care about the cost, just do whatever we want.
Or even when it came time to give due process to people they were deporting, right? We don't have time. We don't have the judges for all these. That's why we're paying the money and getting them out of here.
Exactly, but in this case, they're like, "Oh, we're going to happily take on this massive cost."
Not to mention, this isn't a real problem. Like our country, we might have, even if we say we have issues with illegal immigration, which we have a decent number. I don't know if it's like 15 million, 16 million right now, total, not that just came under Biden. But like, yeah, there might be an illegal immigrant problem. But the idea that we have all these people coming here on visas, all these people that are getting illegal citizenship through their children or whatever, this is not such a serious problem that we need this massive we need this massive reconstruction of how we determine citizenship. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, the harm, the action here is apparently fixing some harm that hasn't really been materialized or recognized, anything like that. And so whenever you're seeing these massive policy shifts, like we said before, this should be through the legislative branch. It should not be an EO. It should not be judicial. Because whenever you're making these changes, it's not the president going, "Oh my God, there's a problem that needs to be fixed, so I'm going to do something to fix it," and then just discussing whether or not that's legitimate, because that hasn't even been established here. He's just saying, "I don't like immigrants having kids here and them getting citizenship. I personally, Donald Trump, don't like it, so I'm going to change it." That's basically the argument right now. And they're kind of working backwards from that and making up these arguments that have all been knocked down. But it doesn't.
Was this part of Project 2025?
Birthright citizenship exists in other countries. It exists a long time in other countries too. So this isn't something that's unique to America. And also there are much narrower things that could be done than this EO. Let's say we are going to do it for whatever reason. There are much narrower, more direct, less cost, less expensive ways to do something like this that would address whatever the problem that they're trying to identify is.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not willing to do that, which just shows their bad faith that they'll think, which isn't surprising that they have bad faith.
Luckily, the Trump admin has like almost a year only have Supreme Court decisions giving them power. So the admin barely has anything that would scare you. How? Why? Why wouldn't that scare you?
But the question is right now is whether or not the Supreme Court is going to actually support a full one, a partial, or say, actually, you know what, the injunction can stand because it's a class action and we're going to allow the class action to move forward. And while that goes forward, we're going to let the injunction stand. That doesn't mean that the underlying case is going to succeed. It will probably succeed in the lower courts, but it would ultimately, again, come to the Supreme Court to actually make a true decision about it.
Did I have a bad reading on this, or the whole class action thing just seemed like really ridiculous? So like if this,
it is
okay, because like if this class action goes through and they win, does that mean that like people who might be affected but just weren't part of the class, they're still fair game or whatever? Like that whole argument it was so fucking stupid.
If a class is established and you don't join it, and let's say it gets resolved, if you were able to join it at any point during the lawsuit, you can join it usually after the lawsuit. You can say, "Hey, I should have been in there, so I'm going to join it afterwards."
So what, you have to file fake paperwork from it?
Possibly, or they might have a time limit around it and saying, "Hey, for this amount of time, you have this much time." The issue with that is if, let's say, it goes through everything, the Supreme Court says, "This is fine, we're going to let this case happen." From that date onwards, if you're born in America, you cannot join the benefits of that judgment because you weren't alive during the case, right? Because the problem is the settlement, the judgment can only be granted to people that are alive.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and so that's a big problem. Is that then presumably you need to have another case for people.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Because there's so many people in the United States that there's gonna be like fetuses that's going to be existing, like 9-month, 8-month fetuses that's going to be existing during that period. Do you think conservatives would consider like 8-month immigrant fetuses to be alive? Oh my God! Or not! So then they can take away their citizenship? Oh my God, because during that period, like, if it does go to a Supreme Court, there's going to be a period of time in which like these fucking fetuses are going to be still in the womb. Oh my God. The citizenship ripped straight from the womb. Oh my god. Absolute cinema. Bro. Oh my, wait, oh my god. How would they define the life? Which week would they draw? Oh my god. If life begins at conception for the Republicans, would they just like give any kind of egg and a sperm citizenship? Because they technically still would, no, they would take away citizenship because they were alive. No, they would, no, they're shameless. They would take away citizenship even if they consider life at conception to be a thing. They're shameless enough to do that. Oh my god! Deport the fetus! Deport the fetus!
People that are continuing, right? So it's unworkable. It's stupid. I think we talked to death about universal injunctions on here, so we don't need to go back over that stuff. But yeah, class action thing is a huge cope. That was it's just them delaying and creating more problems and making more trouble, so that they don't have to actually, expressly say we hate immigrants and you just want them out. They're just saying no, like this is the proper process. And then when you go through it, they go actually, lol, we don't even care about the process. You still should lose because we hate immigrants.
But right after birth is crazy, bro.
Idea in the world, but not really.
Okay.
But it would be legal warfare.
Is there anything more poetic than a fetus getting deported from the Republican Party? Because if you really think about it, isn't the entire argument is that Republicans don't give a fuck about the baby after birth? They only give a fuck about the fetus, but then after a baby is born, they don't give a fuck about it? It's the most poetic thing if right after a birth, a 0-year baby gets deported because of their rules and laws. Can you just imagine? And the entire Republican Party is just okay with it. Is there anything that would illustrate their evil and their hypocrisy, anything more than that? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I think that if they lose on this...
Hey, if you enjoyed the content, I got more for you. It's on my second channel, which is Snack Markets. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as I could. Obviously, even though I got monetization, I'm trying to reach monetization with ads, so I'm trying to push it to 1,000 subscribers. We also got a Discord server. It is discord.gg/Foodshops. We have a pleasant community. It's strictly moderated. It is just about the most sane drama community that you can never be a part of. Now, you can also follow me on Kick. That's kick.com/Foodshops. I put all my VODs there. The VODs are not on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at @notfoodshops. And that's about it. Thank you.
Or if the Trump admin loses on this, they should make it from now on so that federally you're granted citizenship based upon
don't deport.
The abortion laws.
Abort, don't deport is such... Oh my god, somebody hire MVTT. Okay, oh my god, bro. Absolute cinema. How did you come up with that? Abort? Don't deport. What the fuck? Hire this man.
In your state. So like if you go to Georgia, Florida, whatever, if abortion is illegal past 6 weeks, that means that at 6 weeks, a fetus is guaranteed citizenship in the United States, no matter where they're born in the world. I think that's based cool. Because they're alive and they're humans. And
oh my god, they go over the argument. Oh my absolute cinema.
Murder, so they're given rights, right? So they have to be under the laws and whatever of the United States. So they should be made citizens. I think that would be based, and then all the conservative states would become the new flood zones where people are trying to get knocked up so that they can.
Maybe. I unironically think that if you outlaw abortion, that rights should attach to some degree and create a state obligation. But
yeah, for sure,
that's a different conversation.
Okay.
The other one that just recently happened, there's a big long oral argument. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. It was like 3 hours. Trump v. Slaughter about the removal of the FTC chair. And so this is getting us back to Humphrey's executor and whether or not Trump can fire people that were appointed to an executive position with the approval of the Senate in independent agencies, right, like the FTC.
Okay. How is this person normally appointed? Does he come from the head of the FTC, or is he appointed by the president himself?
So yeah, the president appoints, and then the Senate approves, right? And so there was a previous case about this in which they were like, "Lol, he can fire whoever, it's fine, except for the FTC. The FTC is our special baby; it's different. We're not going to let you do that."
Oh, okay.
So now they're suing again, and they're saying, "No, the FTC should not be separate." Arguments being that the FTC exerts so much executive power that it should be under the president's ability to fire them and replace them. That being said, like the idea, it falls apart under any kind of analysis. We've had committees and positions like this for like 200 years in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
The Trump administration has made a very, very like concerted effort to destroy and remove all independent agencies. They find them to be antithetical to their administration because it doesn't follow.
Yeah, this is bullshit. If when these, so there are a few offices, I believe. Are there any? There are a few that are established by the Constitution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the majority.
What are you referring to?
I don't make me look. Like, is the Department of Defense, is that in the Constitution? The DoD? Or the Department of War? I don't remember if it was specifically. I feel like there are a couple offices that are.
War.
Maybe there are none.
Oh
Are there none?
my
Okay, never
God.
mind. Maybe none. Maybe none are established by the
Nice.
Constitution. But
Yes,
the
the
Congress is
Department
what
of
creates these
War.
offices, and Congress can attach special rules to the offices that they create in terms of like. I think it might be.
That's
we
just
need to do a full constitutional
great.
review, right? But it might be that like the president always has the ability to nominate or appoint or whatever the head of a particular office. But I think Congress is allowed to attach rules saying everybody subordinate to this guy is appointed by other people or whatever else. The president doesn't have the ability to do everything he wants within every single department in a way that Congress can legally authorize. If they want to change that, well, are you just gonna? Before I was going to challenge you and say, wouldn't they just delete these entire departments? But I guess they would probably be okay with that. They already did that with the Department of Education.
Yeah. So the big part of it is that when it comes to
Also, wait, real quick.
independent
I called it. I'm
agencies-
sorry. The reason why I called it the Department of War in the Constitution is because back then it actually was called the Department of War. I think it was changed to the Department of Defense after like World War II. That's why I refer to it as Department of War, not because of this orange fucking office. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I refer to the
Wow.
Department of War because I respect
Okay.
the president. But
Not needed, but
with these independent
appreciated.
agencies, these are ones that are created by Congress to be what's called multi-member agencies. So there's no single head of it, right?
Bro, is there not a message more clear to the way that conservatives do things than abolishing the Department of Education? There is nothing more cinema than abolishing the Department of Education. It's so telling what they value the most. They want everybody to be like Oklahoma. Wait, what's the state that is like 50th in education? Is it Oklahoma?
A council, and that council might have a chairman or something. Those are usually headed by experts and not politicians and bureaucrats. And so the idea is these aren't really political in nature in the same way that other ones are. And so we don't want this we don't want this to become political. So we don't want it to change with the administration. We
Mississippi?
just want it to change.
Exactly. They want everybody to be like Mississippi, okay? What they want is if all the states are equally bad in education, then finally, we have finally reached Common Core, all right? We have finally reached full equalization when it comes to education. Now every education in every state is equally shitty. Absolute cinema. Debate Kafka. What would I debate Kafka on? Like, I probably would just agree with everything he says.
It's only if the person's doing bad or they want to retire, right? So like if it is the Department of Education, right? You are going to get approval from the Senate on that stuff, but the Supreme Court has ruled that he can remove those ones because it's not an independent one in the same way that the FTC is. And so now whenever it comes to the FTC, it's the origin of it was quasi-legislative and judicial in such that it didn't ever exert executive powers. But now, right, it's spending money, it's setting policy, things like that. And like, oh, we've got to bring it in here. The weird thing is that the court seemed to focus on the fact that Congress is violating separation of powers by preventing the president from firing people at will for these things. But that has never happened. It has never happened where the president provided legitimate, good reason to fire someone and the Congress blocked it.
Okay.
Meanwhile, or like it's never been the case where there was actually good faith reason found to like do it, but Congress like got around it somehow. That's never really happened.
Hello,
and it's also never really happened where there was like the Congress like unreasonably blocked an appointment, right, or something like that.
Sure.
Thanks for being here.
Then on the other side, the
Meow.
people suing are saying, well, look, if we remove this, the president can just remove people at will, put in people that are loyal to him, and use these agencies to enact his will in an incredibly corrupt and bad way. And the court is like, well, but what's the chance of Trump doing something like that? And so it's this real misbalance of like the conservatives very clearly like creating a reason to be afraid that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, like all the evidence in the world exists to keep it, but they won't. And so it looks like a lot of people are saying it's going to like either 5-4 or 6-3. They're going to.
I need to pee. Then go pee. You don't need my fucking permission.
Really
Just go and piss. Go piss.
It's also
go
it's a really
free your
scary thing
bladder.
I think I talked about this before, where there's this like there are infringements on rights, and then there's like dismantling of checks and balances within the government. And I personally am way more concerned about the removal of those checks and balances and the dismantling of these operations in the government that limit power.
Then go pee, go piss.
Things, right? This is what we're seeing is this consolidation of power and the ability for Donald Trump to further exact bribes, pick winners and losers, play with everybody's lives, because this is our monetary policy, and now he will have full reign to just put in a full-on sock puppet to this position and then just try to just ram through anything he can to make his numbers look good while all the rest of us suffer.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
thanks for letting me on to cheer everybody up about Supreme Court. But yeah, those are the two kind of really big things that have been in the news recently.
This is depressing,
In
dude.
case it came up, in case anybody says some stupid shit to you, like
Boo,
the FTC
this is depressing.
it doesn't
Get
comport
out.
to like our history. It totally does. There's 200 years of history of
Oh,
things
Lord.
similar to the FTC and things like that. None of the historic arguments make sense. There's no reason to do this. And then same with the birthright citizenship. There's no historic argument that comes in here that makes any sense. It is purely just they want to do this thing because it's beneficial to them, and that's it. So yeah.
What the fuck, bro?
Fuck. I have one last thing.
I guess I'll grab a toaster. What the fuck?
I'm sorry, I'm blanking. I had something about your court case that I wanted to ask you about.
Oh no.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
I can see how well it's going.
Okay, dude.
But god damn it.
Did it have to do with scheduling,
Right.
discovery cutoffs, subpoenas, lawyers representing witnesses constantly?
Wow.
Well, if I
Drama
think of it,
out of
I'll hop back
nowhere.
on. I don't want to drag the showtime, but yeah, it was something good. So yeah, but
No! Please stay on, okay? If you stay on, then Mooten and Dan wouldn't hop on, okay? Please. They probably feel dumb next to Kafka. They probably feel dumb next to him, okay?
thanks for letting me on. You have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, have fun, be careful.
Keep him on.
Love you.